Hey everybody, it's Mark. April 11th, 2015, Colorado Sasquatch Research. Today I'm back in another area that I haven't been to in about a year in my research area. It's very high up, very secluded. The reason I came up to this area today is because there's some really neat caves, and I always find a lot of sign and prints. So I wanted to talk about something that I've done over the past couple of years, a skill set that I use, that I have, as far as following prints and determining whether what I have are human hiker prints or real Sasquatch prints. This right here is something that I've used over the years. It's called a tracking stick. It's made out of hard rattan, very hard rattan, which allows me to do a lot of things. I can actually use that as a weapon when I'm bored, just up here or whatever, and I use it at home too. It's, I could take it to the park and practice my Chinese straight sword, some Tai Chi sword with it. I like rattan. Back when I was younger, I used to make a lot of my own martial art weapons, and rattan is what I always would use, and so I've always stuck with it. But anyways, as far as using it as a tracking stick, this thing is 36 inches long, and as you can see, I've marked several different points on it. I have a taped handle here. It's a good weapon. I'll smack a dog or a mountain lion or whatever with this, because I know how to defend myself with it. That this piece of rattan is actually very good for self-defense, but I use it as a tracking stick. Now, the first section that you can see here is 6 inches. From this point to this point right here is 6 inches. And what this allows me to do is, when I find a print, the first thing I can do is turn it sideways to check the width of the print, because we know standard, Sasquatch prints usually run about that. It's about 6 inches in width. And it doesn't have to be exact. There's a lot of military guys who learn tracking and so forth who will mark all up and down the stick for different, size ratios and so forth. I, keep it pretty much basic, because what I try and do is I'm trying to build a profile of the individual that I'm tracking. If I start finding prints, like I said, this area up along here where all these caves are and so forth, I always have found a lot of nice prints. Now, my soil is hard here in Colorado. If it hasn't rained, and it looks like it may rain, so one of the things that I have to rely on is, when I find prints, I know somebody's been moving up here along, there's a game trail. The deer and so forth leave a game trail up along the top of this canyon here. And so, as I move along, if I find a print, and I'm hoping I do find one, the soil's pretty torn up, so something's been coming through here, probably a deer or an elk or whatever. But see how this is torn up? So, if I find a print and I'm not sure on toes, because I don't have toes, and I've shown a lot of times, because of the soil I have, that I don't always get full good prints unless it's really muddy. So, as an example, here's something that I find. I can use that 6 inches to gauge width and also size. So the next point is 12 inches. From top to the second point right there is 12. So that tells me, it's a foot. And depending on how I'm looking at the print or indentation in the soil. Then from 12, I go to 16. Now 16 is a really big print. I have a, from my shoe, I have an 8-inch shoe. So 16 is pretty big. And that's about the size LeBron James has. That's a big foot. Of course, he's, 6'8". Now, the last point that I did is 24. From top to bottom is 24 inches right here. 24 inches is the size of Shaquille O'Neal's foot. As you know, he has to have shoes specially made for him because he's such an immense individual. I think he weighs 314 pounds, 324. So Shaquille O'Neal has a 24-inch foot, and he weighs 324 pounds. Now, you find a print that big, okay, you know you're not dealing with your average hiker out here, because you're talking about a man that is, I don't want to say Shaq's a freak of nature, but he is bigger than the average human being. He is a real giant. And so, you know, that helps me gauge without having to mark every single mark on the step or on the stick. So that way I know. A big thing in tracking, and use a tracking stick. You know, a lot of times in law enforcement, guys that have learned tracking, or military, you know, we're tracking snipers, drug dealers, escaped convicts, you know, downed pilots. Let's say, for instance, you know, a Russian pilot crashes his MiG somewhere in here. And we're at the point of where, last point of origin, where we know he was at the crash site. What I start doing as a tracker is I start with his initial print. And I know that pilots are trained to deviate, to throw off a guy like me. So what I do is I start at the point of the print and start working in a 360-degree direction. Because typically when you're tracking someone that doesn't want to be tracked or found, like a sniper or a downed pilot, they will deviate. They'll leave a certain amount of tracks, like in a straight line. And sometimes, and snipers are more sophisticated than pilots, because they really train at how to, you know, prevent being caught. They'll break whatever trail they're leaving. Sometimes a sniper will work up to far as 20 meters or more. He'll come back around. He'll mark where he left a good print, or where he left it on purpose, and he'll stick something in the ground so that he has a point of reference, and he'll make a complete circle, come back around, and then zip off the other way to throw off whoever's tracking him. They'll follow what he did, which is usually why, you know, like in the military patrols, when we're tracking a patrol of men marching through the jungle or the forest, you spread your guys out about 25 meters, you know, left and right, looking to see if that's what whoever we're tracking did. Now, typically with humans and a hiker, when I'm talking about building a psychological profile, hikers don't do that. I can follow a hiker. I can find a hiker's boot prints and pretty much determine, you know, where they're going to go and why they deviated. Was the terrain too rough and they deviated left or right? Which, you know, and you start to, by building that profile, you start to understand how people think. When you're, let's say, drug dealers, someone is growing a big pot field or something, they'll do the same thing, and they will break that trail left or right, sometimes circle around, zigzag. With escaped criminals, what we've often noticed is like, you know, if let's say there's a prison around here and we've got a guy in here that we know we're tracking, a criminal, he did something. Typically, he thinks he's being smart and he'll zigzag. He'll, you know, he'll leave a trail and then he'll zigzag, maybe jump, zigzag back and forth thinking that he's throwing us off. It takes a lot to throw off a good tracker. So, you know, like I said, with Sasquatch, a lot of times people will find a good print or two or three or four and then they stop and they say, oh, well, you know, there's the whole interdimensional thing. Maybe they just went interdimensional. Well, you know, it's not everyone believes that. I mean, I'm fair and I believe a lot of what, you know, the paranormal stuff that goes on out there. But, you know, there is a methodology to tracking prints. See, like here's where a deer stepped. So you know when someone is trying to throw you off on purpose. You know, like here. I know that the Bigfoot, and I've learned this over the years, that are in this area, they like these little caves, hard to get up into. And that's why they work along here, and you'll find prints. and not always good prints, you know, like here. Oh, look at that. It's not very deep because it's hard soil. But right there, we're almost at the 24-inch mark. Almost. And it, like I said, it doesn't have to be accurate. There's a lot of people who like to pull out the tape measure and go the whole 9 yards, you know, measuring toe size and everything. What I'm doing is I'm just trying to make a determination of what I'm dealing with, man or hiker. So, you know, I'll start at that high point where I think there's a toe. Okay, so we're right at 24 inches. And then use the 6-inch point across. And then I start looking to see, okay, I gotta be careful because these mountain lions are like, love these little caves too. But see, that's really hard to get up into without ropes, without being an expert rock climber. I can't get up in there. I have to climb up all this. So see, they get back in there and they live inside the earth. Anyways, back to the prints. Now, you know, as I start working along, and you can see there's a game trail. It's left by deer. Here we go. See, look at that. Well, maybe. It's always a maybe. So you can see the heel. Like something stepped here and is going up. Maybe grabbed onto this tree. It's heading for that cave. What you're doing by using a tracking stick then is I can start to make a determination. I can say, okay, where is he going? A lot of man tracking has to do with estimation, trying to determine what they're doing, what they're thinking, and you build a profile off whatever you're tracking. Hunters are the same thing. I can pretty much tell. You know, of course, hunters wear really nice, expensive hunting boots. They don't come out in torn up old hikers hunting. They usually have really good gear, and you can usually tell a hunter's boots. But again, with size, those reasons that I marked those sections is because I need to know how big the individual is, and then I can estimate weight. You know, is he carrying a lot of gear? And is he a big man? You know, I don't have a very big foot, but, you know, doing that, using Shaquille O'Neal and LeBron James shoe sizes, gives you a pretty good idea on the size of individual that you're following. And that helps you make a determination, you know. Not all the time. But it gives you a lens to look through, you know, to make a determination on exactly, you know, who's been going through here and their point of travel. So a lot of this, you know, is hard to determine, all the pine cones, the litter, and so forth, as you make your way along. And you got to keep your eyes open, you know, for prints and so forth. But this tracking stick is a tool that I've utilized, and it may work for you, it may not. Some people, it's a skill that takes a while to learn how to use. But, you know, it's easier for me to use a tracking stick to gauge things than pulling out my tape measure and going through that whole 9 yards, because what I can do using that 360-degree direction is determine, why is this individual here, and are they trying to deviate? They're trying to throw me off, or whoever's tracking them. Why are they trying to do that? And so it gives me a good idea than just guessing. And it's a point of science, I guess. Anyways, I'm just continuing to work along here. I haven't been up here in quite some time. I'm going to try and get some segments in and hopefully find some prints up here. This is where this structure, see that? This is typical. See how he took a log, bent this young tree over, and stuck it underneath a very heavy log. There's a nice little layup meadowy area under there. This is very typical of the sign I find around here. They like those little caves, and so they mark it up very nicely in here. See, the thing about tree bends, and when people say, well, it could be natural, no. See how this tree, that's been held down by this thing right here on purpose. It's been bowed under there. It's still alive. And you have that other piece comes down. And like I said, this is an area back last year. I used to find a lot of prints up along the wall here. It's always hard to determine, though, if it was a hiker, if it's deer, elk, or a Bigfoot. But again, using a tracking stick, it helps me to gauge on exactly what's going on. See, if I'm tracking, let's say, you know, again, let's go back to, see, there's a nice cave back in there. If I'm tracking a downed pilot, okay, I need to make a determination what he's doing. And if I see 2 or 3 or 4 tracks and then boom, they're gone. Well, Russian or Chinese pilots don't travel interdimensionally. They are purposely trying to throw off somebody they know is looking for them. So I'm just sticking to this game trail. Now, I don't know that the Bigfoot do that, but I assume that they would, especially with someone like me. This is kind of like a cat and mouse game. They know. They've seen me looking at prints. I just wish that, you know, my soil was a lot better. Than it is. My prints a lot of times seem to be like hair. You can see the toe outline, but there's like, they're messed up. It almost looks like there's hair. See, I've shown back in there, there's a nice cave that goes back in there. Really hard to get in there. So anyways, I hope that helped you guys a little bit. I wanted to discuss how to use a tracking stick, because it's a tool that I enjoy. The more you work with it, the better you get. And it's a skill set that a lot of guys, especially in the military, like to hone, to master. I'm a traditionalist. A lot of guys rely on technology, GPS, other things. But, you know, like I said, I'm a traditionalist and I like using the old ways. And a tracking stick is an old art form to man track. See, now we're starting to get some more stuff. Always up here along these caves, I get the most incredible, you know, I can see where the soil's been torn up, something's been moving. And that's another thing is, you know, I'm trying to go with the best route I can. Here we go, look at that. See, there's a heel, something. Gauging this, right there, he's at the 24 mark. 24, so remember, 6, 12, 24. That's a little smaller maybe than 24 inches, say from right there. He's right at 24. Take the 6. And there you are. Big print. Very big print. It's all by itself. So here, maybe I can use this as an example. This is good. I'm glad I found this. Okay, so we got a print. Obviously, he's moving straight along this game trail. It's all downhill, see, into a ravine. A lot of dead wood and so forth. It's all over. Might be a little hard because of the boulders and the rocks to track a print. So I have to make a determination where this is going. So I'm just going to keep heading straight. Continuing to keep an eye for those dropped heels. See how this grass is all matted down in here. Different areas that you could go up or down. Again, you have the caves up here. So, getting a really skunky smell too all of a sudden. I'm going to go up instead of down. I can go down and work my way around, but what the hell was that? I'm assuming, because that's what I'm trying to do, is build a psychological profile. Where are we going and what are we doing? So let's go up. Okay, check this out. Just nothing sophisticated. There's some trees that have been bent over to make a little blind. And you can see something's been in here. See that? It's never really a dramatic thing like a big den. It's just a couple trees that have made like a triangle type shelter, a blind, like a hunter's blind. And the Bigfoot is a deer hunter. He just doesn't use a gun or a bow. See that? That is very nice. Brother, I can smell you. Are you there? Shia Chukima. Really smell him. Well, something skunky. Now, like I said, I have been up in this area, so a lot of this sign I have seen before. But it's been a while. This is actually one of the harder areas to get to. Oh, here we go. See this set of caves up here? There's two. There's one over here. It goes back in that rock, and then this one. It's really hard to get up into. Now, see that? This is structure I don't ever think I focused on. I wanted to show. See this? This tree did not grow here. This is put here. Big log. It was moved here to create that. This one is grown into the earth. This one is not. The one in the back, those two are. But this log, this particular log right here, as you can see that? There's no hole. It's not in the earth. It goes way up there. He bent this one around, shoved this one here. Hello. So, very typical the type things that I find in this area. Let's see if I can move up a little bit. Now I'm still on that trail. I'm still seeing disturbances in the soil. Now see, they marked this cave. That's why this X is here. It's been used, or it's been marked for some special reason. So, this is where I'm going to stop this first segment at 25:30. And we're going to restart it up. It's starting to get dark now like I wanted. I came up here because we are going to be moving into doing night work up here. And it's going to get spooky for me. So it's kind of like baby steps right now. I am, you know, I'm going to be here till just at dark, just to see what happens. And just kind of baby step it until we start working out here. Doing night, recording audio, and seeing what else we can do to get a reaction. But for this first segment, tracking stick. That's what I wanted to show. And it's something that maybe you guys can utilize. It's kind of on the tactical side of thinking, but I'm a tactical kind of guy, so. What the hell was that? Woo! Woo! It's going to be dark here in about a half hour. And I'm up on the side of this mountain. Things are getting creepy. So we're going to kill this segment right now and restart it up. So we'll see how our battery life goes. So that's going to be it for segment 1, tracking stick.